Which of these is the weeded king? Let's find out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. Today we are on a quest to discover the king of weeded bourbon. Well, okay, the king of weeded bourbon in a very particular strata here. So with the release of Old Fitzgerald's 7-year bottled in bond, it got me thinking, where does this bottle sit among its direct competitors, sort of in this $50 to $60 category? Each of these, with the exception of the Bardstown, is a little bit harder to find, kind of like the Old Fitz is right now, and I want to see how it stacks up. So I've tried to pick a spectrum of options here, different profiles, different distilleries, but they're all weeded bourbons, just to see what comes out on top. So we're going to blind them all and see which is the winner. Let me introduce you fully to the contestants though. So like I mentioned, this is the Old Fitzgerald 7-year bottled in bond, 100 proof. It's the Old Fitz line made more accessible and affordable at $60 MSRP. Mixed reviews on this so far, but it is not as expensive as the rest of the line in terms of Old Fitz, so it's nice that it's more available. Bardstown, we've got their Origin Series weeded bourbon. They also have the high wheat, which is the tan label, but this is the black label. A little bit lower wheat content, but one of my favorites. 6 years old, 100 proof as well. It's bottled in bond. It's really, really good stuff. This is by far the most available. You can find it for like $50 to $55 almost anywhere at this point. So eager to see how this one stacks up. Then you got Weller 107. This is an iconic bottle, 107 proof. It is supposed to be like $50 MSRP, but can be much more difficult to find, as is the case with all Buffalo Trace products. Still, a very classic weeded profile. We'll see how it stacks up. And then last but not least, sort of an outlier, but interesting one to throw in the mix is the 1792 Sweet Wheat. So this is 1792 Barton's weeded profile. It's only 91.2 proof, so it's going to be the lowest proof option, a little bit harder to find, but again, the MSRP is right around $60 if you do see it for that fair price. So I think this gives you a good spectrum. They all sort of exist on a similar strata or level within the world of weeded bourbon. We're going to answer a couple questions. Which one's the best? But then also, how does this Old Fitz sort of stack up among this crowd? Let's dive in. I'll remove the bottles now. We'll get the blind fully set up, and then we'll see what comes out on top. All right, so jump cut right to the blind fully set up. All these are mixed up. It's not a double blind. I do know what's in this blind, but I don't know the order at all. And these have all been sitting for about 10 minutes now, opening up. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'm interested to see how I can even tell these apart, as they are all weeded profiles. We'll see how different they are. We'll call this glass A here, and then we'll work our way all the way down to glass D on this side. All right, glass A on the nose. A lot of bright notes. Like a bright cherry, strawberry, honey thing going on. Touch of oak. Doesn't smell like super low proof, but it doesn't have a ton of ethanol either. Pretty well balanced. Maybe a little bit weedy and bready. But most of it is that cherry, vanilla, even like strawberry, red fruit, and honey. Light, bright, inviting, for sure. Glass A. All right, glass B on the nose. Okay, that's different. A little darker, deeper. Still some of that red cherry, but I feel like it's slightly richer in tone. Maybe even a touch of raspberry and chocolate. A richer oak feel to this one too. Curious color-wise. they're pretty similar. Yeah, this one definitely has a darker cherry, a little bit of oak richness to it. All right, glass C on the nose. Okay, interesting. This is tending a little bit more toward what glass B was giving off. Not quite as bright as glass A, but it's maybe somewhere in the middle. Vanilla, cherry raspberry thing. Again, a bready quality to it. A slight earthiness, even. But again, this sort of strikes a balance between A and B. These are all pretty similar so far. I think A stands out the most with the brightest. B is a little darker, probably the darkest so far. C is in the middle, but those same tones of that cherry or red fruit and oak and a little bit of weedy breadiness coming through on all of them so far. The palate should be quite a bit more distinguished between the three of them, the four of them. All right, on the nose for our glass D. This one feels bright too, like maybe even a little bit of a bubblegum, cherry, bubblegum kind of feel. A Laffy Taffy note. A little bit of ethanol, a little bit of spice. Floral, a little bit more floral on that one. Okay, so again, similar DNA with that wheat profile in all of these. If I had to lean toward something particular, so this one's, C has a more wheat heavy presence, a cereal grain kind of thing. Now that I go back to it. B has a touch of that too. A still feels lighter. I think I lean more in the direction of B and C with slightly darker notes, but we will see on the palate. All right, let's go into glass A for our first sip. Cheers. Okay, glass A, most dominant, strongest note through all of it is that bright red cherry. It's mixed in with a little bit of like a buttered bread pastry note. It's pretty good. Feels a little thin on the back end, but it's not lacking proof, I don't think. I feel like a solid Kentucky hug. So it feels like it might be more in that 100 proof plus. But that red cherry, slight touch of oak, a little bit of vanilla, some spice, but it's a little thinner maybe than I want it to be on the back end. But the flavors it presents on the front end are pretty solid. All right, let me get some water and then we'll go into glass B. Okay, so glass B on the palate. Yeah, that's starting to get a little weedier on the nose too. Cheers. Okay. So that definitely darker. More of a raspberry jam, wheat cereal grain breadiness, touch of honey. Actually, maybe more than a touch, sort of like a splash of honey. But it just tends in that more raspberry, bready, heftier, darker quality. And it doesn't lack, it doesn't feel as high proof as glass A. Might be very similar in terms of proof, but it seems to roll over your palate with a little bit more staying power. And I feel like I can taste that raspberry for quite a bit longer. Okay, more water than glass C. Moving right along to glass C on the palate. Cheers. Interesting. Cherry, more of a medium to darker cherry on glass C. Much more a thicker, more robust mouthfeel, but it's kind of more mellow or even keel the whole sip. A little bit like of a sweet cinnamon, but I don't feel like it had as much punch as either of glass A or B in terms of like elevated flavors. Just felt like the smoothest, richer sip of the bunch. But again, a little bit of oak, that cherry, a little bit of maybe that sweet cinnamon, but it's not wowing me. It just felt the most sort of buttery in the mouth, which is a great feeling. But I might actually, on glass B, like how that had a little bit more distinct raspberry jam and bread kind of quality to it. We'll see as things develop, but let me get some more water and then we'll finish out the first go through with glass D. All right, into glass D here. Okay, into glass D now. Yeah, that's definitely bright. Cheers. Okay, now that's good. Wow, a little bit more floral, honey, but bringing that red cherry, vanilla cream even, much creamier vanilla, good red cherry, strawberry even, kind of reminded me of glass A, but with more robustness, and that one felt really nice and thick in the mouth too, kind of like glass C, but just brought way more flavor punch. And it continues to go with that sort of strawberries and cream note. And then a little bit more punch even, like I think maybe there's some staying power there on that whiskey. Kind of carried over some cinnamon from glass C, but stronger. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is go in reverse order and then do some A/B testing and really figure out my order here. But in the interest of making this not a 45-minute video, we are going to fast forward through all that for you and cut right to me revealing my order and talking you through my reasons. So let's do that and I'll see you in a minute. All right, everybody. Thanks for bearing with me. I've now gone in reverse order, A/B tested, and come up with my definitive ranking here. This is a subtle one, with all of them being wheated profiles right around the same proof generally. They're not necessarily standing out from one another in drastic ways. So I've had to dig into the subtleties. A lot of that cherry, red fruit quality with the little bit of breadiness and oak stands out in all of them. They're all very solid, but I do have a pretty definitive order here. So for me, in fourth place and last place is gonna be glass C. This one just felt the most lackluster, like it didn't have anything unpleasant, but there was very little distinct flavor notes to it today, at least, and it felt a little flat compared to the others. Good mouthfeel, again, very pleasant, but just didn't offer the variety of flavors and the richness of some of these other ones. So glass C was, wow, Old Fitz 7-year. Sorry guys, it is not a super distinctive wheated bourbon to me. I have, when I reviewed it and as I've tasted it, one of my complaints has been it falls a little flat on the back end for me. And I think that kind of hurt it in this blind here. I could have sworn this might have been the 1792 sweet wheat, because to me the sweet wheat has almost nothing offensive about it, but nothing great about it. And the Old Fitz being the one that falls flat is a little ironic given the whole sort of investigative nature of this blind. Sad to say, that is definitely my fourth place here. All right, so then in third place, rounding out sort of the lower tier, it was really a battle between the top two. For me, in third place was glass A. Very bright, very sweet, sort of jumps out of the glass because of that, but didn't have the depth of the other two. So let's see what this was. Okay. So that's the sweet wheat. It's super sweet. It's very bright. almost started having that bubblegum nature to it. While Old Fitz sort of fell flat, this one continued to offer that sweetness, but it just did not have the layers of the other two. So these two were sort of a half step below the other two, and then it was really just discerning which of these I liked the best. Ultimately, for me, they're very different profiles. Glass B continued to get more cereal grain, raspberry jam stayed true, a little bit of chocolate. It had a slight graininess though, and then Glass D had this, continued to be the richer, more cherry forward and oak experience. So for me, ultimately, the winner today, because we've got two left, I'll just reveal the winner, was going to be Glass D. Glass B gave it a good run for its money, but didn't quite live up. My guess is that this Glass D here is the Weller 107. I'd be shocked if it's the Bardstown. Already been thrown off a little bit with these two, but let's see. Yeah. Okay. So the winner, Weller 107. In second place is the Bardstown. It was sort of like two levels to this thing. The Old Fitz and the Sweet Wheat, just less interesting and less layered. The Bardstown and the Weller, far more interesting and layered. The Bardstown is like this darker, more bready profile. I do feel like the Weller 107 continues to hold the baton, carry the torch of just really good wheated profile with that cherry and oak center to it. Also helps that it's a little higher proof. But again, another big story here. The Old Fitz, really just not that interesting, unfortunately. I wish it had more going for it. Even the Sweet Wheat, which I found pretty bland before and just generally sweet, had more pop to it today. But the Weller 107 deserves its praise as pretty much one of the better in this mid-tier wheated profile options. Though, if you can't find the Weller 107, because it is very difficult to find, the Bardstown Origin continues to be a great option. I do think the Weller stood out. I mean, it was my definitive favorite from the first time I tasted it all the way through A/B testing. So, gives you a sense of the quality there. Let me know in the comments below, did this go how you thought at all? For me, I am surprised that the Old Fitz felt this low. Have you tasted any or all of these, and how do you rank them? And then maybe just in general, what wheated bourbons do you like the most? Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.